Hello, I'm Imran Yusuf from Sport Business in London, and welcome to the Sport Business webinar on AI-driven highlights, how to deliver sports action that engages in modern-day fan. In the coming years, artificial intelligence will disrupt almost every industry, and sports media is no exception. Rights holders and broadcasters are increasingly aware of the strategic and operational advantages to using AI-powered tech to cut through the saturated media space and win those all-important eyeballs. AI-driven highlights are a particularly vital tool in this context, and it seems this capacity will increasingly become an essential part of the armory of sports properties and their broadcast partners as they seek to grow audiences. But how do stakeholders monetize these AI-driven highlights? And in what other ways will AI-driven highlights change our sports media landscape? To help explore these ideas, I'm delighted that we have an incredibly accomplished panel today. I'll just introduce them. We have Meghna Krishna, Chief Revenue Officer at Magnify, Gonzalo Sarza, Head of Data and AI at La Liga Tech, and Alessandro Raitano, Senior Vice President, Continental Production Operations at Sky Deutschland. And to our audience, thank you for joining this Sport Business webinar. Please note that through the Zoom Q&A functions on your screens, you can send in live questions. I'll weave them into the conversation where appropriate, but please don't hesitate to send those through. We'd love to have them. Now, to dive straight into the topic. So that our audience is up to speed on the latest developments, I wanted to first touch on the state of play when it comes to the technology. In terms of the tech used in producing and distributing AI-driven highlights, where are we right now? What's the state of play? Gonzalo, if I could turn to you first.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. I think it's a great question. It's very relevant for the current state of the technical stack of AI. I think that there are several solutions that will help a lot to improve the way content is being not just produced, but also handled. And there are several changes that are here to stay, ranging from being able to enhance the quality of the content that we produce using several AI filters, such as the way we do every single day in social media, up to the use of generative AI to generate innovative content just from text or from a specific quote of a video that could generate an inception of new content. So that's the current state of the art. I think that there are plenty of opportunities to improve this space, and we have plenty of tools to help us on this as well.
Thanks. Alessandro, is that how you see the state of play in terms of the tech, and also any thoughts on what we can expect going forward? You know, what the next stage of evolution might be in terms of the tech specifically for AI-driven highlights?
Yeah, thank you, Imran, and also pleasure to having me. I would say I'm echo what Gonzalo said, but on top of it, it is an incremental and a very, let's say, valid service on your ecosystem, because in the former times you were taking care about, let's say, one single live event where you were focusing, and now you're exploring tons of other opportunities because your marketplace is a little bit different. You have different audience to serve. You need other tools, and I think it's here to stay to say using artificial intelligence or other services, metadata services, I would say, even if you don't have these, let's say, calling the artificial intelligence here, to bake into your ecosystem to, let's say, to create more content for different outputs. And I think this is the beauty, and that's why I say it's here to stay. It is something which established fast and well into your supply chain. And what we can expect in the future, I think, if we are thinking about how fast the development started and how, let's say, smoothly it's implemented already in your daily work and pipeline, and think about how artificial intelligence, machine learning go forward, and you can detect other things. I think this is a great opportunity to create faster, more personalized, more, let's say, streamlined outputs. And I think as long we say and feed the engines well, I think the storyline comes on top, because at the moment it's a little bit tech. It's nothing where you think, okay, this is a story. And if you think about how, let's say, machine learning can help also on top of it to create a story, I think there's a huge potential out there. And this is, I mean, it's the beginning, yeah, and it's definitely more to come in the next couple of years.
Meghna, as Alessandro said, there's more to come. There's already been advancements, and so we see what's happened, what's happening. But I want to explore what this means for right holders and broadcasters in terms of engagement and ultimately revenues, which we'll get to shortly. But if we can start with personalization, which again, Alessandro touched on, how does this new space mean greater personalization of content, and what are the ramifications of that?
Sure. Thanks, Imran, and really glad to be here. And I completely agree that AI highlights, they cater to personalized content. And personalized, when we say personalized, the sheer volume of content that is required to fulfill everyone's personal requirements. I might be a fan, like we were talking about Messi, somebody else might be a fan of another player. When I come into midway, because I was working, I haven't seen what happened in the first half of the game, I want to really quickly catch up as to what has happened so far. I want to see what were the best goals that were scored. I want to see what has happened in the previous World Cups, because I'm just catching up to, or I haven't forgotten, it was so many years ago. There's so many different ways that a viewer can choose to now engage with content. And with AI, there's so many different forms in which this content can now be available. Not only that, I feel that every social platform, everywhere where you publish this content, requires different formats. Just take the aspect ratios. Somewhere it's 16:9, somewhere it's 9:16, somewhere it's 1:1. You want to have the best experience. You want to make sure that you, at any given time, you're following what is happening, whether you're watching it on your laptop, on your screen, or on your mobile. You want to have the best experience. AI now allows for that, but because we have a technology called ball tracking that tracks the ball and keeps the ball in the middle of the screen. So at any time, even on a vertical video, what is happening on screen. It becomes easy to share. We can share in real time on multiple screens, which again means that you're keeping fans engaged in real time. We all know that video content loses its meaning after a few minutes of the game these days. So we want to make sure that every viewer, wherever they're watching, they have the same experience that they would have if they were watching it. And it allows the rights holders to bring them back to wherever they want where they want to engage the customers, or where they want the viewers to be watching the game. So there's so many different ways. One is personalization, but also customization to the platform, the size of the video, the best videos or the best events that have happened in the game. They're different. And if I am watching it from one country's perspective, then a team-based highlight, a player-based highlight. There's so many different ways you can personalize the content.
Perfect. Gonzalo, Alessandro, Meghna really went through quite a lot of the functions that AI Highlights brings specific to personalization. Is there anything you wanted to add on that point?
Yeah, there's one thing that I think that is also extremely important related to what Meghna has been mentioning, is that nowadays it's cost efficient to do it. It's cost efficient thanks to AI to personalize. And it's very, very fast as well. So the entry barrier for broadcasters or users or consumers of this kind of media has to lower a lot thanks to the advances in the technology. And that's one of the things that is what is affecting the massiveness of the solutions and the reach out of the content that we would like to share and to generate to fulfill those, I wouldn't say needs, but niche that we could find down the road.
Thanks.
And I think on top of it, I mean, we know, let's say, especially around, let's say, digital, speed is king. And you are, let's say, producing something on top where you normally need an army of people which fulfill the service exactly to, let's say, get the content immediately out on your pipelines, into your pipelines. I think this is one big advantage now. And also, I mean, we always forgot how many content we have on our MEMS and our PAMs and our archives. This is purely dumb content, I would say. It's great assets, but it's what you can now, let's say, harvest out of those systems to create out of your ages of content great highlights, and on top storylines. I think this is things many broadcasts are not figured out yet. I think it starts the beginning of, let's say, about the mindset. Okay, coming along, I do have a great MIME or PAM system. What I do with that, beside the fact that I do run linear content all the time. So it is good to see. And it's a great learning curve at the moment, and you do nothing wrong. As long as you're putting out the right content to the people you want to serve, I mean, it's a beneficial part.
I want to explore how you use that content on social media. So how can organizations use social media to drive more views of AI-driven highlights? I'll start with you again, Alessandro.
I mean, the social media is your outlet, or let's say it is your showroom to show the people out there what you have behind paywall. In our case, I would say, and it's a quite good balance by saying, okay, I'm getting out what is necessary to drag people into your product and keep it on your platform, on your product. And this is where I think it helps in cooperation with federations, by the way, with other agencies, with clubs, because at the end of the day, your ecosystem is a little bit limited by the way what content you can produce by yourselves and yourself and your organization. So otherwise you have to create good cooperation partnership with the same mindset by saying, okay, La Liga, for instance, what one I can offer the rights holders on top of their services, where we're not spending much energy. So that means at the end of the day, the social media part and Elevated Digital is a great platform to show what you have in your portfolio, and then put the right output here and bring people onto your platform and keep them and serve them with what they need. So, and this is, if you find the right balance between what you get free behind pay or the vice versa, I think this is the thing we have to figure out. I think there is not a $1 million idea out there at the moment. This is thinking, feeling, and also getting in touch with your customers and fans. But I think it's the right way to do.
Meghna, Gonzalo, would you concur with that on social?
Absolutely. I mean, my opinion is, if you are not going to put content out there, if the broadcasters and the rights holders are not going to put it out there, it's going to go out there anyway. The UGC, it's going to get out there. So you might as well put it out there and drive the customer to the place where they should be watching that content. So social media serves as your promotion tool, as well as bringing people to the right holders, to the place where they can actually monetize the content. Other than that, I think it's a great information, right? Because in our busy lives today, everybody has so much content that you might forget that your favorite player is playing, or there's an interesting game happening somewhere. Social media is a great way to just send that quick reminder, this is happening, your favorite player is just playing really well, or build a notification service and bring that audience back. So I think social media has become an essential part of every business out there, and it is for right holders.
Yeah.
One thing that I fully agree with Alessandro's concept of that social media right now is a showcase for content. But at the same time, I think that social media has also become a broadcaster somehow for newly generated content. That nowadays is easier than ever to create. Then we have the discussion of copyright and all that part that is tricky. But already there, and there's people consuming that content as well. So that's also part of this transformation.
Sure. And Gonzalo, following on from that, we've discussed changing viewer behavior and patterns. Does this mean that AI-driven highlights are generally more likely to be tailored to the younger demographic?
I think we need to tailor it down to that demographics, but also we need to understand the way they are consuming and they would like to consume content. It may be through social media or not. Maybe there are other different channels that they're using to consume and to create content. I have the experience that when my parents enter a space that could be social media, WhatsApp, or communication applications, that's the moment that I know that it's not relevant anymore. And I think that that's an underneath discussion we need also to have with social media, and to actually discuss on if this is the approach for the future or not. Is it social media? Is it another way of generating content and interacting with each other? I'm not sure, or I think that that's a interesting discussion that will drive us towards identifying if we need to tailor the content on the communication channel towards young generations.
Meghna, do you concur with that?
So I think that definitely broadcasters and right holders are looking for ways to keep Gen Z more engaged. They are the ones who are going to be paying or going to be the viewers of the future. So obviously, yes, that definitely is a target audience. But having said that, I think even 30, 40-year-olds today, they are busy. They go back from their long working day. They have families. They have to take care of their kids. They do not have time to consume 4 or 5 hours of content. I mean, if a game is finished and you were working, most likely you're not going to sit and watch 3, 4, 5 hours of the game. You're going to come back and consume highlights of the game. Maybe you're going to come and consume what were the key moments of the game. So content has become necessary. Who's watching it more? Maybe Gen Z is watching it more. However, I think content is there for everyone and everyone is consuming it.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree on that. I would slightly see it in a different way. I would say the live match is always the appointment to view, and you cannot beat, or let's say beat this out, because this is your marquee event, and you have to serve it, that this becomes always your supercharged super marquee event. And highlights, if they can, let's say in the end of it, drive this engagement by saying, I want to see this match because it's the best match of the year, and I have all the associated content next to this. I think it's a good combination. I would really say that highlights, I mean, we are saying always artificial highlights. I mean, they can serve every group of people you want to serve. I mean, you can, let's say, I want to tackle the social media Gen Z generation, but you also can create fantastic linear content if you want to serve traditional linear content people. So this is the challenge, and I would always the challenge to the manufacturers by saying, okay, tell me the pipeline you have, the workflow you have to serve both target groups. I want to serve the digital natives, but on the other hand, I want to have the best condensed matches and making the 90 minutes and 30 minutes and without any involvement of an army of producers in the back. So this is the thing where we have to discuss with manufacturers and also with rights holders what is possible out there. And then you can serve everyone, which you need to get a customer at the end of the day, a subscription player, a fan of La Liga, whatever you want to do. But this is exactly our challenge because the outlets are crazy. There are so many outlets out there and you have to find the right way to serve everyone in the right spot. To make one thing very clear, the live match is, in our case, behind paywall. It's full stop. The Premier League match sits behind paywall, but I want to feed everyone into and say, listen, I want to drag it on our platform and keep it on our platform.
Sure.
I'd just like to add to that, sorry, Imran, but I also feel that once the highlights or the main points of a match are created, right? Now it gives the people who were earlier busy doing the busy work more creativity. So if Gen Z wants to see the content in a certain way, they want more analysis, they want more numbers, they want statistics, that's what we offer them. If a different audience wants to see more storytelling and more creativity, then there's room to create content for everybody because AI is doing the busy work for you.
Sure. Further to the point about speed that came up earlier, we've had a comment come in saying the person loves how highlights these days come so fast. And do please send in your comments or your questions in the Q&A function there. I'll try and weave them in when appropriate. I wanted to ask about data, specifically AI-driven highlights. What opportunities do they provide in terms of audience data? Gonzalo, if you would to take.
Every single one that you could imagine, actually. There's plenty of data right now. I think that the biggest challenge is to use it effectively to connect with the audience. When we were discussing this the minutes before, I was thinking about my nephews that they don't watch a game, but they could spend hours watching a run of their favorite video game, how the favorite streamers play that specific game. But we're having issues at La Liga maybe, or the sport entertainment industry, to get the attention of a person for 90 minutes of a match. And I can even talk of myself. I'm from Argentina. We've got a great World Cup. I'm not sure if I've watched all the games, the 90 minutes, even though it was once every 4 years and my attention was put on that. So I think that we could use those micro moments, because maybe if I'm using my phone and I can get that information somehow, I can try to drive the content towards re-engaging me with that content I'm watching in real time. And that's one of the possibilities that we have based on a problem that we will see in a month, I would say. So opportunities are endless.
Alessandro, Meghna, in terms of audience data, would you agree with that?
Really agree with that. I think if we see how we, let's say, broadcast data and bring data to the audience, I think we are definitely far, well, a little, let's say, years behind the US market, how they're playing with data, especially if it comes on telly, what they tell about players. If you watch our kids, how they picking, selecting on, let's say, FIFA, they players. Sometimes the players plays on the totally opposite position, but the data tells them the right foot is better than the left foot, then we put it in here. So meaning about if it comes to fantasy, other things on top of it, how you can play with data, I think there's a lot of potential still, and especially around football, I have to say. We are very, at the moment, a little bit conservative by airing on-screen data and telling a different level of stories. I think the people want to watch mainly, okay, no graphics implementation, it's enough. I want to see the match, camera one, it's enough. But if you want to add graphics, maybe they slightly complain. So this is something we can overcome if you are, let's say, telling the stories in a different way with, let's say, highlight clips. Or I want to say specific data, who shot the goal, what was the last goals, whatever. I want to bring this in context, what's happening with data. I think there's a great potential out there. But again, we are using it in a very traditional format at the moment.
Sure.
So I think data today is not being used to its full potential. However, once the data all comes together, right? Once we know exactly what customers are reacting to, what is bringing them back, what's the audience, what is bringing the audience back to the platforms, what is the most viewed clip. Till now, we assumed why people watch Olympics and only 1 or 2 channels would carry Olympics with their 15 events happening. But through social media, now more Olympic events are getting promotion and publicity. And we can see there's a difference in user behavior. So that data is going to be beneficial. But data is also going to be beneficial to understand who's more likely to buy a season ticket, who's more likely to buy some merchandise. And I think data can be utilized in so many different ways. We've just scratched the surface on that.
Perfect. We've actually had a question come in, which was about the best way to deliver highlights in order to get the customers behind the paywall. And that's exactly what I wanted to move on to now. You know, in terms of the value chain, we've skirted around the final part of this process, which is monetization and how AI-driven highlights actually generate revenue. I mean, it's clear from our discussion so far that these innovations provide immense opportunities, fan engagements, audience insights, data, generally more eyeballs on the sporting properties. But how does that lead to a bigger bottom line? I mean, how does a rights holder utilize AI-driven highlights without giving away its crown jewels? Meghna, start with you.
So obviously, first and foremost is the personalized content. If I am on a social media channel and I am offered content that I do want to watch, I'm more likely to engage with that and come behind the paywall and pay for that content because it was personalized. I know that this is something that is really pulling at my heartstrings and I want to watch that content. Other than that, I also feel you saving so much more money using AI rather than a whole group of editors in creating this content, which anyways manually is not feasible to create personalized content for everybody. 3, your archived content, which so far was not being utilized can now be published to create curiosity and keep viewers engaged when there are no big events happening. You have libraries of data that exist that people are keen to watch. People are keen to watch very famous players in their early days when they were playing, in different leagues, etc. They're keen to watch it, and we've seen that 75% increase in viewership on a particular game or sport happens the day before an important match. So people are keen to watch that, but because it's all put away, the rights holders are not being able to monetize it to the right extent. They're not being able to create storylines and create that engagement and interest before an important sporting event.
Alessandro, what's your take on how to monetize AI-driven highlights? How to get people behind that? Well, the right side of the paywall.
Yeah, I think, and this is we have to be honest here. This is the difficult question. This is the elephant in the room. And to be honest, on the one hand side, from a manufacturer perspective, everything is glossy and everything is glory. On the rights holder side, it's very simple. Sometimes you have right restrictions, very simple. You cannot put every content on your social media platform. You would to love it. I would start with the first. Engagement starts, if I'm a fan, I need personalized content, and I need, let's say, on 24/7. I want to wake up with my club, and I want to go into bed with my club, and I want to, let's say, see what kind of information I get. And the more content I get from different angles, also from clubs, the better it is, let's say, to feed into something. The match happens on a Saturday or on a Sunday or whatever it is. So that's the easiest part. And the more complex part, the super interesting part is how much content during the live 90 minutes or live event are you putting on social for free? Let's say image highlight clips, for instance. The goal from someone in, let's say, keep it Bundesliga, Premier League, or La Liga, whatever it is. Actually, right happened. The match is super interesting. Please turn in, and I want to drag you into, let's say, onto platform. This is the tricky part. I think this is the full super interesting part. That sometimes we're facing right restrictions. Where we do not have any right restriction, we want to learn is this something we can engage and create more interest for our customers or for potential customers. But I think the in-match highlight clips is something which is, my point of view, offers the great potential, especially on a busy day where you want to attract people and say, this is the appointment to you, something going on here. It's an exciting match, turn in. And I want to see most of the people on our platforms, but this comes with many obstacles in regards of rights issues. And what Magna says is right. The 24/7. We are in the lucky position to run a news channel on top of it. But as I said at the beginning, there's tons of content at the archive. You can engage people every minute, and you need, let's say, utilize and unlock the potential on your archive with artificial intelligence. And I think that 3 ways, if you combine it in the smart way, I think it can create, this is the way how we bring and monetize it at the end of the day and utilize the content we have.
Sure. Gonzalo.
Well, great reflections. I fully agree with the point, and taking into consideration the highlights, for instance. I think that monetization is highly tied to the added value that I provide to someone that is willing to pay something for a service, for a content, for a special treatment, let's say. So if we could, for instance, take the highlights and convert that into an immersive experience somehow using artificial intelligence, that's not the value. We already have the data, we already have the content, and we already have solutions in the AI world that could provide you from a single or a couple of cameras 360 view of the same play, the same moment within a specific sport. Let's say that goal that you wanted to see from a different angle. That's something valuable that can be done. It's not expensive, and I would pay for that. So I think that discussing creative ways to provide content to the end users or to the fans, that's a way to monetize at the end of the day.
Yeah, got it. We actually had a question come in about whether live sports or sports highlights will be delivered through OTT platforms rather than TV? Do you think there will be a complete shift? I guess that's the question, especially about the sort of gradual migration we're seeing from linear to digital. Do you think in the realm of AI highlights, there's any relevance there? Gonzalo, come to you.
I think it's going to be completely over OTT, but I'm speaking from a safe place, right? And that's what I would like to have it, because it will enable personalization. Very deep personalization. It's not a mass content towards the mass, but it's going to be tailored to me, and I could play with the data and the content, and that's the value. So I think that that's going to happen for sure.
Brilliant.
But I'm standing on a safe place, right? So I can say that kind of things.
No, that's fine. Alessandro, you touched on this in terms of rights restrictions. I just wonder about future media rights agreements. I'm sure a number of people watching would have been on both sides of those deals over the years. How much will this space disrupt the way deals are currently structured between sports bodies and their media partners?
You mean in regards of selling only highlights or?
Yeah, exactly. How much that will come into sort of the deal inventory, things like that.
Well, I think this is something we have to, well, this is I do not have a clear answer on that, because I see that the biggest value is still obviously the live match. I do see potential by saying highlight packages in a single. I mean, I'm started at the beginning, because I always, if I watch my kids and how they consume it, and this is sometimes very crazy. If we are not providing the content, they will find it anyway. And there's one platform where they find it always, unfortunately, and this is unfortunately not Sky. And so we have to make sure together with the rights holders, and that's why the biggest value is the live match, the live event. And I think as long as we can secure that in a way, I'm not worried about let's say, having highlights somewhere, as long as we marked it, protect it, and it's feed into the right platform where we want to, let's say, serve our customer as best as possible. As long as we secure that together with the rights holder, because it can't be in the interest of rights holders to say, okay, highlights only. I mean, we're talking there, La Liga is spending, or Bundesliga, they're spending millions by producing the 90 minutes or the live event. And they're not, let's say, bringing more cameras on site. I mean, it's not in the interest of everyone to say, let's forget that's excusing. For other platforms, maybe, which is interesting, and you have a highlights package dedicated, maybe it's an option, but it is not an option like a platform from Sky or anybody else, broadcasters, to go away from the live event itself, because I say, and I still believe it, it is the best value you have. It's the appointment to you where you combine families behind something. I don't say the traditional tally, but behind something. And this is something we have to protect. And this is why we're working on like hell to really supercharge this single event, by the way. And not, let's say, because highlights, they're gone. The moment of everything, the 90 minutes where you stick with your friends and watching, I think sometimes this thing is forever. And I'm still, maybe I'm too optimistic, but I think, I hope we run this business the next couple of decades exactly in that way.
Meghna, did you want to come in on that point?
No, so I completely agree, and I think that, you know, sitting in front of a telly with your friends and watching it with it's an experience that you cannot miss. But having said that, we're already seeing the way Gen Z is consuming content. They're not doing it on your regular telly. There will be different ways of consuming content. There are already rights. There are different leagues that are selling broadcast rights separately, digital rights separately, social media rights separately. So that's already starting to happen, and it's going to continue. What happens ultimately, how fast it happens, whether it happens in a couple of decades or it happens in the next 2, 3, 5 years, that we have to see. But yes, the pattern is definitely shifting.
Perfect. Gonzalo, in terms of delivery of AI highlights, do you see sports right holders ultimately moving towards taking these capabilities in-house, or do you think specialist partners will continue to be required?
Nice question. I think a mixture. I think there's going to be spaces for specialization, and some of the partners could provide or could take the risk that media companies and the rate holders are not able to take to evolve very, very fast. So that part could be through a partner. But I think that the rate holders still need to have their own teams in order to produce this, or to harness, let's say, AI and the solutions that are coming in the following months and years. So it's a mixture, and it will depend on the risk that the other companies could take at the end of the day, because there's going to be a lot of failures within the AI space. And it's easier if it's a partner, let's say, and that's part of the price that they charge you for the solution, because that's the risk is involved within the business model.
Sure. Is that how you see things as well, Alessandro?
Yeah, I agree. It is a mixture. I mean, you need a kind of knowledge base within your company. Otherwise, you can't deal with the manufacturers on the other end. I mean, you have to understand the business. If you want to spend R&D on tech infrastructure, I would doubt it. It makes sometimes sense in certain cases, but not overall. I truly believe a turnkey solution makes sense, but as long as it comes to tech infrastructure, because you want to avoid the R&D spend on that, and also capex, because it's too fast. I mean, it's instantly, immediately change every 2 months, I would say, from a feature set, from the development phase. So what you need is a good knowledge base, how you handle with that, and challenge, by the way, the manufacturers on the other hand to say, I need a specification in your AI machine learning, because the thing is that one size fits it all. I also doubt it a bit. You need use cases in different company cycles as well. And that's why you need some adjustments, and therefore you need good scalable partners on the other hand to react on the customer needs, I would say.
Sure. Magna, in this fast-paced industry, do you also see it as a partnership going forward?
So absolutely. See, for us, it's our bread and butter. We're constantly doing research. We're constantly developing new models. We are trying to make sure that we stay ahead of technology. And that is our core competency. While people or broadcasters and rights holders could bring it in-house, but that constant need for upgradation, that's not their core competency. So I would assume, I mean, there would be some who would bring it in, but I would assume that a requirement for the latest technology will always be there.
Sure. Speaking of the technology, I wonder if one of you will volunteer for 30 seconds. We've had a question come in, someone who missed the beginning when we sort of touched on the tech and where we are. Would it be possible to explain how AI-driven highlights work technically? What is the technology behind it? We have a brief answer. Perhaps Gonzalo, would you volunteer for that?
That's a very broad question, actually, to explain in 30 seconds, because there are several ways to generate highlight. I would say the most efficient right now will be to use generative AI to extract content from specific queries or events that could generate some sort of necessity to restrain part of the things that you will go to look for in an archive. The archive could be the match that is being played right a minute before, or the entire World Cup. So, but options, you have plenty of options in order to generate the highlight.
Sure. We're approaching the last question, so if there's any more from our participants, please send them in ASAP. I just wanted to ask if there are any potential problems on the horizon with regard to AI-driven highlights. You know, what are the most urgent issues organizations like yours involved in this space really need to address? Alessandro.
We have to overcome, and especially this is for every editor or editorial people out there. We have to overcome those highlights are not, let's say, because they are not human created somehow, that those are the worse the highlights than I would, let's say, do if on my own dedicated engine, with my own hands, with my own mindset. I think you have to create a mindset, especially for editor or editorial people out there, that this is an incremental support tool which makes your story at the end of the day better than as of today, because you can search easier to material and you can create faster content out there. So, and if you overcome that, because it's always with the machine learning is something, it's a field which is, you don't know exactly what's happening. Do I have to control it? Do I have to support it? Do I align it? Do I assign it? So this is the thing we try. It's a change management process. It's not, let's say, buying a tool and say, listen, now you have to work with it. It's have to say, okay, how this tool can support your everyday work to create better stories. And if you tell the story right, I think it will be fully accepted. If you tell it wrong, it will blocked immediately. Like every new thing in the world comes to this human nature is like this. So change management in a positive way, it's one of the key elements to introduce artificial intelligence in every field. And I think it's the key of success.
Meghna, what are the most urgent issues that your organization is sort of involved in this space?
So obviously one is the people issues, right? People assume that AI is there to replace them. However, we feel it's a supplementary process where it reduces the amount of work that you need to do to just create a basic highlight, and also add speed to the process, makes a person more efficient. The challenge we see is that people want AI to behave like a human being or like a human editor. That is not what, then AI is not yet there that it's going to generate a whole story and create a storyline for you. It's there to give you the basic. Someone asked how the technology works. It's basically detecting events. If it's a goal, it understands that when the ball enters the net, it's a goal, and it'll give you, as soon as that event happens, it creates that clip and publishes it and says, here it is. Now, what you choose to do with it? Do you want to publish it to a social media platform? Do you want to save it for later and publish it as a highlight of reels of all goals? That's still dependent on the human that's sitting there. So that human element of making the story and a story that's right for every person, customizing it, personalizing it, that's where AI adds value, and that's where we see, and that's again a process of explaining and doing and bringing change management in your organization to make the people who've been doing it understand that AI is not there to replace you, but to make you more efficient.
Gonzalo.
Fully agree with that last statement. I would say that the biggest risk is that we probably still have a low literacy in terms of the understanding of AI, what it could provide, what are the challenges, the possibilities, and what it's not meant to do. And related to that, I think that we have a lot of opportunities, because using AI, we could automatize things that are repetitive, boring, and to devote the human being towards the creative part, to the decision making, to add value in that specific domain that AI is not there yet. And I'm not sure if it's going to be there in the future. That's an open question still. But I think that that's the biggest point.
Sure. The very last question, I'll put it to you, Meghna. We've had a question come in, which is essentially about, before a big match, in the days before, there's a lot of hype around the event. Then you have the live event itself. Then you have, a few days later or a few weeks later, AI highlights from that particular event. And the question is, is there a way of monetizing those highlights that would almost replicate, the original viewership of the live event itself?
So like we said, the archive content. So value of a match ends when the match ends, or when most people are aware of it. So the best way to utilize it before a next big match, before the next big event, those highlights can always be stored when something else major happens, because your data is now meta tagged and it's stored and can be easily pulled back out when required. So before any big event or after any big event, when you want to create a story, your data is already ready to be processed and presented to an audience and monetized. You don't have to spend days searching through your libraries to find the right content to offer to your customers.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone watching, and especially those who asked questions. There will be a recording of this webinar on the Sport Business website shortly. So if you missed the beginning, you'll be able to catch it there. Meghna, Gonzalo, Alessandro, thank you so much for your participation today.
Thanks, Imran. Great pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alessandro. Thanks,
Thank
Gonzalo.
you. Gonzalo.
Thanks. It was a pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.